Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're gonna recreate from scratch this type of sound. And in the context of a track. Alright, so for that we're gonna use Ableton Wavetable. The first interesting thing is how the oscillator work together. So I use two sawtooths for the oscillator, but kind of a bit different sawtooth than your usual one. So here again, during Like to Explore, you have different type of saw in the basic one, or if you go to the vintage one as well. I'm gonna use the long saw this and in this position, which kind of is a bit nasal. And then we're gonna use oscillator 2. We're gonna use again another sawtooth. This time we go to retro and we choose sweep saw. And again, we bring up the position to have another kind of nasal sawtooth. Now here the interesting thing to do is to detune 1 octave the second oscillator. So we're gonna go to semiton and put plus 12. Now one of the second main thing of this sound is you can hear it's quite sharp and there is a bit of kind of a slow attack at the beginning, which kind of sound like a wind instrument, like a recorder. And to emulate that, you need to set your attack between, I would say, like 10 and 30 milliseconds. You can adjust to your taste. Here we're gonna go around 14 milliseconds. And you want something pretty short, so you bring down the sustain and then you can adjust again the GK and the release to your taste. This is something that you can modulate to add variation along the track to have sometimes shorter GK or release. Here we're gonna put it for now around 250 milliseconds. Now if you want to accentuate the effect, the best way is to use a low pass filter that you're gonna bring down and then modulate with an envelope to open up quite sharply. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna choose 12 dB low pass filter. We're gonna use the Prodigy 1 style. We don't need drive or resonance and we're just gonna bring down a little bit. So obviously you don't hear nothing now, but we're gonna go to matrix and we're gonna basically modulate our filter with the amplitude envelope. So we're gonna reuse the same envelope and around 41%. Now next thing is we're gonna put in mono because it's an ARP and we don't need to play chord, and we're gonna play with the unison and we're gonna use the shimmer one. So this is gonna add a lot of excitement and a bit of stereo as well. So we're gonna bring the voice to 7 and the amount around 40%. So that's with the shimmer and without. Now one of the characteristics of a recorder sound is you have this noise because of the blowing, and to replicate this noise you can just use white noise. So Wavetable doesn't have white noise by default, unfortunately, but you can use the vocoder and set it in a way to add a bit of noise. So here just need to reduce the band to 4, the range to 18 kHz and 30 Hz or 20 Hz, bring up the bandwidth, and you can hear already you add a bit of noise. You can reduce the release maybe, and then just adjust the dry rate amount. You just want to add a bit of noise, and you can use the formant to kind of color a little bit the noise you want. Negatively, you got more something darker. Alright, now we need to add a bit of bite, and we're gonna use saturation. Usually when I use unison and sawtooth, I like to use amp because it adds a bit of buzziness to it. And we're gonna use the clean mode, put in dual because we have a stereo sound. And then you can adjust the gain, bass, treble, middle, and presence to your taste. If it's a sound more in the mid-high, I will always add a bit of gain and maybe reduce a bit of the bass and then crank up the middle and the treble a little bit, and maybe presence, depends how the sound reacts. And then maybe reduce the volume and then adjust the dry wet. Okay, sounds great. Now we're just gonna add an EQ to kind of boost the mid-high a bit more and get rid of this very noisy frequency on the top end. So we're gonna use the high share for around maybe 300 Hz and we're gonna boost like 3 dB, 4 dB, depends. And then we get rid of this very noisy frequency. So here we usually go down until I found that it's reducing too much the high frequency. Like when it starts to reduce the clarity of the sound, I will stop. Too much. Yeah, like this is good. Then we're gonna use saturator. It's just to make things louder. So the best way to do that is to use the hardcurve mode. Now I'm gonna reduce maybe my volume of the wavetable to be able to crank up a little bit the drive. And remove the color. Yeah, that sounds great. Now we need to add a bit of rhythm. So the best way to do that is to use delay. We're gonna use the ping pong delay. I will leave the dry wet and the feedback around 30%, the time in 3 in ping pong to have this nice stereo effect. Then you can use the filter maybe a bit more wide. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Okay, sounds great. Now we need to put our sound into a space, and here we're gonna use hybrid reverb. I like to use hybrid reverb if I need to give a bit of color to the sound. We're gonna use the convolution only, and then again it's up to you depending what you want and what sounds the best for you. Here I use the Real Place Bank and I use the Concrete Hall LR. Obviously the dry weight is a bit too much, maybe 30%. And then I will add a bit of the stereo, 120 bass mono just to be safe. And here again you can EQ, maybe kind of reducing the high and kind of boosting the mid-high. Now as a final process, I will use utility to kind of make sure everything under 120 Hz is in mono and add a bit of width with the stereo width. So this width, if you don't have stereo, is not gonna create stereo, it just enhance if you already have stereo. And then my final process, I will use drum bus. I've been using this a lot lately. It's just great to kind of put everything in the front, make it sound a bit modern, more in the front with the compressor. So here maybe we're gonna reduce the trim input, that's a bit too much, and drive's gonna add a bit of harmonics. I found crunch somehow which makes sound a bit more modern. It's gonna add saturation on mid-high frequency. So then again, adjust to your taste. And then transient will act like a get a reverb, so it's gonna kind of shut down the tail of the reverb a little bit. We're just gonna reduce the output minus 3 dB. So if you found the sound too squash, you can always adjust the trim to don't be a bit too squash, but yeah. Alright, and that's it for today. I hope you like this sound. As usual, the preset is available for free, the link in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe before to grab it. If you wanna support me, you can grab the Techno Bank as well. I'll put the link in the description. See you soon for the next one.